Hi everybody, my name's Danny and welcome to Turunga, a place where we all share a good story. And today I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips for creating everlasting, memorable characters. Let's go! When you've read a really great book or you've come out of a really fantastic film that you've just seen, what really resonates with you is what the characters have gone through. Here are my 5 tips for creating those good characters. My first tip is creating a really good backstory for your character. If you just introduce a character and all of a sudden they go into this series of actions without letting the audience know or tap into where that character's come from or where their origins are, it makes it harder to attach yourself to that character and understand and empathize with that character. Knowing a character's origin story or where they've come from or where they've originated from and crafting that really great backstory and taking the time to do so is really going to help propel that character into people's minds as well as making them really memorable. Having a really great backstory is super important because it's like having a really good group of friends. You know who your friends are, and that's because you've all kind of been on a journey together. You understand each other's backstories. You've shared experiences together. You might have experienced tragedy together. By having those fixed events that are shared and common between you and your friends kind of makes that bond that you have with them really, really close. And that's what you kind of need to do when you're writing a character. You need to kind of plant the seeds to establish the bond between the characters as well as the reader and the viewer or the audience. And that important connection is what helps to make those characters really just connect with people. A couple examples I'll just share is, for example, in the MCU universe, a lot of the superheroes that are introduced into the MCU have their own standalone films that kind of center around their backstory before they're being propelled into this universe where they interact with a lot of the other MCU superheroes. Another great example is Elphaba from Wicked. So Elphaba is a character who starts out good, but then along the way becomes evil through a series of events that kind of shape her beliefs and morals and values. And that kind of gives us a really good understanding of why the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz is so antagonistic towards the characters there. By exploring the musical of Wicked, you can gain an understanding of why the Wicked Witch of the West is the way she is in the Wizard of Oz film and novel. And that's a really cool connection to make. The final example I'll give is from a film called Back to the Future, where the characters actually go back in time to rewrite the backstory so that it changes who they are in the future. That concept of traveling in time to fix elements that have gone wrong in the backstory and allowing the viewers to view that experience through Marty McFly's eyes is just a beautiful way to tell a story and also allows to experience the story through the character's eyes in real time. It says in this backstory that you've abandoned every single person that you've loved. We're gonna have to really do something about that, you know. My second tip is all about making sure that the character's relatable in some way. A lot of the characters that I sometimes conjure up are to do with my own personal experiences. People that I know, things that I've seen or experienced and gain inspiration from them. If people can see themselves in a character or see themselves in a particular situation, they're going to resonate a lot more with that. So for example, when you're watching a sitcom, especially about a family who are having some issues, being able to see that through that lens, and The Simpsons is a great example where a lot of those familial situations are kind of exaggerated. People can see those situations and completely understand them because they've experienced it in their real lives. That's going to really resonate a lot more, and that's going to be super important for adding that extra layer to your character. Now, I do understand that there's many hurdles when it comes to trying to make a character relatable, especially if you're in a fantasy setting or a science fiction setting. Trying to make the characters feel human is probably a really important thing to do. So even though you've got this other space type being, if you can make sure that their actions feel somewhat human or feel some sort of human emotion, people are still going to relate to those characters because people have emotions, and if people can see the sense of sadness or the sense of anger in a particular alien species, then people are going to still really connect with that emotion. My third tip is all about crafting some inner conflict for your character, something that your character constantly struggles with. It might be Peter Parker struggling with his identity and being Spider-Man as well as being the photographer and keeping his identity a secret. It could be Bruce Banner as the Hulk, where he has to transform sometimes into this big monstrous green character that causes havoc everywhere, and then contending with the scientific side of him as well. Introducing a moral dilemma that your character continually has to contest with is going to bring to the surface really cool flaws that your character is going to have to overcome. I mean, it's great that a character can fly or have superpowers, but when that character has to contend with real issues that are deep in their core about where they've come from and who they're supposed to be, that just really makes for some memorable character creation and character crafting moments. It's important that when you do choose an inner conflict for your character, that it feels authentic and it feels like it fits that character as well. If you can kind of marry the two together and make it feel real and raw for the character as it plays out on screen or as it plays out on the words on the page of your novel, then that is going to be something you'll be successful in. When I take off these glasses, I think I'm a completely different person altogether. And when I put these glasses back on, I'm back to the way that I was. My fourth recommendation is all about establishing some really clear morals and beliefs that the character has and that they abide by and stick to. Are they a character who's trustworthy, has high integrity, and strives to be heroic? Or are they the anti-hero where they try to do good but do it in a way which is quite violent and antagonistic? These core values is what is going to underpin how your character reacts to different scenarios and different situations. And, even considering questions like, is your character willing to change? They might begin in one place with certain morals and values, but those values and morals can also be adjusted and end up being completely different by the end of your story. And how those morals and values are tested is what really is going to make your character come to life. Are you saying that I'm not trustworthy? I have stood by you through thick and thin. How could you betray me like that? My fifth and final tip is all about avoiding the cliches and the common character tropes. Try and avoid characters or styles of characters that have been done in a lot of other movies, films, novels, musicals, and all in different ways. Try and find a new angle or a new lens to see characters in a different way. If you can find that lens or that little narrow slither of light that shows you how a character could be seen differently, then that absolutely really makes your character come across as unique. Now, a really good example is, if you've ever read the story Little Red Riding Hood, there is this film called Hoodwinked, which is all based around that fairy tale, except it's all about who committed the crime. And the story or the film is told by different characters' points of view. So you get Little Red Riding Hood's version, you get Grandma's version, you get the wolf's version, and all of those versions together create this unique, complete story. But it also shows you those characters in a different way. Like the grandma is this kind of like Mission Impossible or 007 spy, and she kind of is undercover, and you've got the big bad wolf who's like a journalist who's trying to report the truth on the story. Then you've got Little Red Riding Hood, who's called Little Red in the film, who's simply insecure and just trying to discover who she really is. Just the marriage of all those different perspectives together really shines a light on how you can take a common character and do it differently. And that's my little follow-up tip, is that if you do want to explore a character that's been done before, try and find a new angle, tap into it in a different way, or try and shed some light on something that hasn't been explored about that character or character trope before. I've got the perfect new character pitch. How about some toys that are secretly alive when nobody's around? I think someone's already made that. I see. Oh, how about a man that gets bitten by a spider and gets superpowers from it? When you're creating a character, it's all about their personality. I'd like to often think of it as 5% of the character is their looks, and 95% of that character's their personality, their morals, their history, and their standpoint. And if you can kind of blend the two together in that way, you're going to really create some outstanding characters. Now, the only time where I would see that the appearance would matter is if the appearance links to the backstory or their morals in some way. And the prime example of this is the lightning bolt on Harry Potter. It's not just there as a decorative measure, but it's there to highlight something that Harry has struggled through in his past that emanates throughout all 7 books. Thank you once again for sticking with me so far, and if you really like these tips, please let me know what you think in the comments section below. If you've got some characters that you've drafted or crafted and you want to share them, I'd love to read them and start an open discussion with you. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys soon for the next amazing story experience. This is Danny signing out. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.